Good morning, Wadsworth. I'm Janie Parrish. I'm the director at the Wadsworth Area Chamber of Commerce. And today on our television show, It's a Great Day in Wadsworth, we're going to talk with the Bicksler family. And you might not even know this, but Bicksler Electric is the oldest retail business in Medina County, 105 years strong. So let's go in and we'll find out from Paul and Annie Bicksler what's going on and how they've managed to maintain such a great business. As we're walking back to talk with Paul and Annie, look around at these great appliances that Bicksler Electric offers. And they're going to explain to us how they can offer competitive prices to compete with the big box stores. So look at these gorgeous appliances. Every time I come in here and I'm looking at the stainless steel, I got to tell you, this whole style right here, my favorite. I think this is amazing to put the freezer on the bottom because, of course, you don't use it that as often as you get into the refrigerator to find your milk and Diet Coke. So there's over here you see all of the stoves, and there's just so many new things that you go home and you look at your appliances and you say, I might be on the outdated side. So let's go back and we'll talk with Paul and Annie. So now we finally made it back to Annie and Paul Bicksler. And joining us now is my beautiful co-host, Michael Reynolds. You know, he needs that every week.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only way I get through the weekend.
That's right, yeah. If I were to say to him, and here's my co-host, Michael Reynolds, I don't know what would happen.
Yeah. Might be depression setting in. I don't know.
He'd take to his bed.
Gotta give him a compliment.
I'm just sure. Yeah. So, anyways, here we are with Paul and Annie Bicksler, and two people that have truly made Wadsworth a destination place. That's for sure.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. 105 years. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing?
It
Third
is.
generation owner.
I don't think my grandfather would believe it.
Oh, isn't that nice to hear that? Yeah, he probably didn't sell many televisions, did he?
Well, when he started, it was strictly electrical, but you know, he started the business in 1914, but by the early 1920s, they were making major appliances, and that's when he got into the business of selling major appliances.
Boy, and how does your company, as the same family owning it, that continuous rank in Medina County? You've got to be one of the longest running family-owned businesses.
I believe we are the oldest in the city of Wadsworth now. I'm not sure about Medina, but
I bet you're up there,
well,
one of the top couple
We've got
ones.
to be up there, yeah.
Boy, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Your grandfather started this in 1914.
Correct.
Okay, and then where was that first building? I think I might know because I see a Bicksler name on one of the buildings.
No, that's not the one that you're thinking of.
Okay.
You're thinking of 141 College Street. But he actually had 3 stores before that. One was a store that had a jeweler on one side, and he had the electrical on the other side. Then Grandpa, he was into motorcycles. So he actually had a shop where half of the shop was a motorcycle shop, and then he had the electrical on the other side. And then as the business expanded, of course, that's when he moved into 141 College Street.
Okay.
Now, back actually during the Depression, it was down to just him. And then shortly after the Depression, he started hiring more employees. But, you know, it was nip and tuck there that he was trying to hold on to the business during the Depression, and he did.
I would think. Yeah, sure.
But then right after the Depression, that's when he started hiring, you know, extra help in the employees and stuff. And, of course, you know, he was into the appliance business at that time and also the electrical.
So what would some of the appliances be? I'm thinking like the wringer washer.
Well, yeah, wringer washers. We at that time even sold GE because we have a trophy out front for the biggest volume of that. I think it was 1947 with GE appliances. But we've pretty much had all the American brands. We've tried to stay away from some of the you know, the foreign brands, the South Korean companies. They've had some service issues, and of course, we have a hard time finding parts for them, and nobody wants to seem to work on them.
Yeah, nobody wants to work on it.
So when did they actually move from the building that has W.S. Bicksler on it?
Then they moved, well, let's see, down to 153 Main Street, which is where the junior high was.
Okay.
And of course, the school
is now
bought
the parking lot.
Right, it's now the parking lot.
Central Intermediate
We moved
parking
up
lot.
here in 1983, I believe it was.
Okay.
We've been up here since '83 then.
And I do have to ask, what does WS stand for?
That's my grandpa's initial.
Okay.
Wesley, and it was Sylvester, which, so that's why I used WS, I think.
That might have been a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, holy smokes. So then your dad came into the business.
Yeah, actually, my two uncles were involved in the business first. It was Wes and Bruce. Wes was the oldest. Wes kind of worked, and of course, when I started, all three of them were there. But Wes kind of ran the office. Bruce ran the electrical crew, and my dad ran the store. And of course, when I got in there, I started in high school as a stock boy and cleaning windows, and then
Every
I went
boy's dream.
Yeah, then I did deliveries and pretty much the entire business. Did some electrical work for a few years, and then went back to deliveries. And I came into the store to kind of run the store at that point.
Holy tamale. I love those generational stories.
It's
Absolutely.
been a quick, almost 50 years, I can tell you that. It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It's amazing how much time has gone by.
It is. I can't believe it. It's been
But
that long.
your dad bought it from Wesley and Bruce.
Correct.
And then you and I bought it
Purchased this
from
Mom and Dad.
from his mom and dad.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
the third generation. So
Because Bicksler's a pretty famous name around Wadsworth.
Well, he did a lot of the electrical work in town. I mean, he wired all the banks and the city building and the two schools, the centralized school, the CIS building. I mean, he did just about all the big projects in town. He did a lot of the big houses over on Merriman Road, at that time. So he was wiring some of those old mansions and stuff like that. But
So you got through the first 105 years. What's
Well-
the fourth generation plan, or the
Let's
next
ask-
105 years?
Let's ask Drew. What's he planning to do?
Bring him
Well,
out from behind that camera.
and I still have a freshman in high school. I mean, so I'm not going anywhere for a few years, obviously.
Sure.
Drew, of course, is involved in some other things, so I don't think he'll be coming into the business. My daughter wants to go into school teaching, so God bless her on that. I mean, it's like I told her, you'll have your summers off that way.
Yeah. Well, having your own business is the American dream, but it's
hard.
tough.
Not easy.
You're
It's
going to work a
not
lot
easy.
of hours.
Yes.
And if you think, you'll be working 50, 60 hours a week. I mean, and if you think you can just buy a business like this and walk away from it, it won't be here a year from now.
So the next 50 years plan is Annie's going to work, and you're going to golf.
That sounds really good. I like your plan better than what I had planned, but I like
I don't know
your
if Annie's going to agree to that.
I don't know about that, Michael.
I could go off 5 or 6 days a week.
Oh, gosh. So tell us from the time that you took over in '83 until now, what are you seeing that's, obviously technology has just...
Well, and it has. I guess the biggest thing is competition. My dad and uncles had a little bit of competition, but nothing like what we have today.
Sure.
Yeah.
With the box stores and everything like that. And of course, this goes back to when we moved up here. It was in the early 1980s. We were one of the founding members, but there's about 240 dealers from this area, and we formed our own buying co-op.
Like independent.
Right, and so we used to have meetings up in Novi, Michigan, 2 or 3 times a year, but it gave us that buying power that we could buy in large quantities and then, compete with the big box stores. And then several years ago, we disbanded that group, and we went in with a couple other smaller buying groups, and we formed what's called Nationwide Buying Group,
Okay.
which is now the biggest buying group in North America. In fact, I had one of their competitors that has been trying to get me to join their buying group. And I told him, I said, geez, I said, I was one of the founding members of this group. I said, my theory's been if it's not broke, you don't change. So we stayed with Nationwide, and about 6 months later, Mega Buying Group sold out to us. They were doing about approximately $5 billion a year in sales, and we'd hit $14 billion a year in sales. So now with Mega coming into our group, we're hitting about $20 billion a year in sales. Now we do have about 4,000 storefronts nationwide. But we have our meetings out in Las Vegas because we have to have about 4,000 rooms to
Or Orlando.
someplace.
And you have to have a little fun while you're
You
at it.
betcha.
Oh, it is. And all the vendors, they have their displays set up, and most of them offer specials.
But because we belong to the buying group is how we can compete with the box stores. We can offer rebates and
That they don't even have.
consumer rebates where a box store is not eligible, where we as an
Okay.
independent dealer are
can.
eligible.
Yeah, we had 2 yesterday that they didn't even know about the rebates. but we sold them both because the bottom line is we're competitive with the box stores. In fact, the refrigerator I sold yesterday was $225 cheaper than the best, price at the box store. And she didn't even know she was getting a rebate on it. And then we called her yesterday, hey, we found a rebate, so we're going to fill out the paperwork. Well, she was thrilled to death. She's going to get another $150 back.
And is any box store going to take the time after
Correct.
the sale
Right.
to actually
Right.
research that to save the customer money?
Right. That's usually what I do. I look every week, usually on Mondays. It comes in through our buying group, and I just look at what's coming up. And even sometimes it does help to close the sale too. If they know that this rebate is coming up, then fine, I will go ahead. A lot of times we can offer free delivery. The box stores may say it's free delivery, but there's always a
that's
Always
a
something
that's
attached.
a drop off in the driveway.
Where,
but if you want to pull the old appliance out, there's an extra $20. If you want it installed, they charge you extra. So.
Well, I think we both do more of the customer service end. I go in and I research to see what's available, a little bit extra for the customer. And like yesterday, I had two, and the one gentleman, he called when Paul was speaking with him. He's like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And he's getting $150
Wow.
on a prepaid
So
Visa
that made my
card.
day.
Absolutely.
So
that's
Because he was not expecting that rebate.
Right,
So
right.
he was
Yeah.
thrilled.
But I just look at them every week to see, and then I go through my sales and see, and if it's within the rebate dates, I go ahead and I
Well,
get the
we do a lot of the
paperwork
legwork for the customers too. If there is a service issue, we take the call, we try to contact the companies, get the service set up. When the product is in warranty, we use factory service. When it's out of warranty, we have actually 3 gentlemen that live in town here that do our service that are very reliable and reasonable. So we use DNS Appliance Service, we use John Geig, and we use Mike Godin to pretty much do all of our service, and because their rates are a lot lower during when the unit's out of warranty.
Well, I got to believe with $20 billion in buying power, that's got to be a fairly significant part of the market, isn't it? Comparative to the big box stores.
It is. Yeah, we plus a lot of the box stores, they don't have availability to the entire lines. Because we've had some of the box stores that have sent customers, well, we can't buy that. Go down to Bicksler.
that's nice.
So they do send people down here, and then we stock parts too for people that want to repair their own stuff. We're the only parts supplier in the city now. And if it's something, we have a pretty good supply, but if it's something we don't have, we get parts delivered 3 to 4 days a week now.
Now, one of the things for me that would be, my husband's very good with hooking things up, but say, for example, I would buy a television. I'm on my own, and I want to have cable and, all that stuff. What do you do with that?
Well, actually, we send my son Drew out because it's just about getting above us with all these smart TVs, because you have to know the Wi-Fi address and how to program the password and everything. Because there's a lot of streaming online now that you can get.
You already lost Janie.
Well, yeah. But I do have to tell you, I did know the answer to that. I just want to give Drew a plug because I love him so much. Yeah. Oh,
He
my.
definitely is the one to do that. It's,
Yeah.
the stuff is getting complicated.
Sure.
Well,
And the remote controls are getting complicated too. Now Drew installed 2 TVs the other day, and sure enough, she called yesterday, and she didn't have a picture on one of them. Well, I walked her through it here on the remote, and basically she'd hit the wrong button, and she had it out of HDMI 1. So all she said, well, do you hear that static? I said, well, yeah, you're out of HDMI 1. So I talked her through it. She snapped it back in. She says, perfect, it's working.
that's it. You know what you truly have the market on customer service. I mean,
Well, I think we do.
I think we
Truly.
do.
Now that was one interesting thing at our last buying fair. They were talking about the knowledge that independent appliance people have versus the box store. The average length of an employee to stay at like a Best Buy or one of the other stores is not quite 12 months. So they have a large turnover. And most of them aren't people that have been in this industry before, so they really don't, know a whole lot about it because they're fairly new to it too. But they do have a large turnover in those places.
so what's the biggest and brightest thing coming in appliances?
Well, it's probably all the automation stuff. Now you can take your smartphone and you can start your washer or dryer from your smartphone. Not sure exactly why you'd want to do that, but you can do it.
Let's talk to my husband about that.
I always think of the Carousel Tomorrow at Disney World. Have you ever been there to that ride? No, if you've been to Disney World. It's sponsored by General Electric, actually. And they've had it's been there since the place opened. And you basically go in there, and it's a rotating theater. And it goes through different stages of the evolution, basically, of technology. And it starts in the early 1900s, and it starts with the original, type of, like I said, agitator, washing machines, and then goes through every 20 years. And I remember a number of years ago, they started having, like, Alexa, where you could speak to it, and so that you start with this young family, and by the end, that young boy that's growing up in the household is now the grandfather, and they're playing video games on the TV, and they're talking, and the grandmother had put in a turkey in the oven, and as he's saying, "Oh, it's 500," the oven, you hear the oven in the background say, "Raise temperature to 500," and by the time they're done, he's like at 1200, the oven's smoking, and so when you say that about why would you want to do that, I always picture that when someone says, "Why would you do that with an app?" And that's why.
Of course, now they have refrigerators that you can take your smartphone and you can look in your refrigerator from the grocery store to pick up your food. And again, that's fine, and it's really neat technology when it's working. Now the problem becomes if that door goes bad, you've got a $1,200 door to replace. So sometimes I think you're better off maybe not to buy top of the line with all bells and whistles, but something that,
And you really need a computer screen in your refrigerator door.
Well, I guess we're old school, but we go to the refrigerator, we open the door, and we make a list.
Yes.
But I'd rather be old school than do it that way.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm loving the refrigerators with the freezer on the bottom. My daughter has one, and I just think that's amazing.
Very popular.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, and a lot of times I think with anything, we've always done it that way.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it goes along.
Well, and when you see the evolution of the other appliances, and certainly with the TVs behind us here, to think of the old time TVs, which were a 19-inch television, was a fairly good sized screen.
Yes, it was.
And I'm sure you've seen that over the last 10 to 15 years. Just the ones behind you, 55-inch, which is almost becoming small.
That's small.
Yeah.
That's small. Big enough for my house, but small for.
Yeah. So what do you see in trends with that? I mean, do you see them still getting bigger, or just improving what they have?
Well, I think they're going to get bigger. I mean, 65 to 70, 75-inch TVs. I mean, they're kind of popular now. You have to have a pretty large room for something that size, but the price keeps eroding on them. I mean, so they're very reasonable to buy. I mean, actually to the point that you can't afford to really repair the one that's broken because the price of the new is so low.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. I can remember my dad saying, somebody turn the TV on and warm it up.
Yep. We used to be the channel changer, not the remote.
We were the remote.
Yes,
All go over and turn the volume.
I still
Move
remember
the bunny ears and.
Oh yeah, stand there in one leg or something. But I still remember I have an uncle that used to always buy the latest gadgets, and we'd visit him in Florida. And we were down there when I was a little boy, and we were down there visiting, and the same thing. And he talks about change. He would do the same thing. Okay, Michael, can you go change the channel? And he got this new TV, not TV, but new remote control. And I got up because he said, we're going to watch Channel 3 or whatever it was. So I started to get up and say, oh, no, I've got the new remote control. So I kid you not, he has this giant remote control. And he hits a button, and literally retrofitted on top of the dial is this big giant mechanical box. And he pushes the button, you hear, and that was the remote control. But to us, that was like amazing technology.
Yeah.
Totally.
And of course, even air conditioners, I mean, they're all remote controlled anymore.
Sure.
So, I mean, pretty much
Some
there's
of
not
the
too much stuff that's
dehumidifiers are that way
mechanical.
now?
Yes,
Have you guys ever looked or thought about or done, sold laptops, computers? Or have you ever looked at that market, or is it not something?
Never really have, and I don't think it's anything I want to get into at this point. I mean, I think if you're in that business, you really need to have a repairman on site or something. In the computer business, but so it's probably nothing that we would ever get into. But
Do you see yourself adding any other product lines, or changing, or more just evolving with what you currently have?
I think just evolving. I mean, the products are changing so fast anyway. I mean, it used to be they'd have a model that might be current for 2 or 3 years, but it seems like anymore they're changing so fast that as of 4 to 5 years ago, they no longer produce a full-line catalog for any of the dealers.
Really?
They expect you to get all your information off the internet. which makes it a lot harder and it takes a lot more time.
It's supposed to be easier, but
Well, the problem with appliances, and when we had a master catalog, you could go to the spec sheet and you could go model by model and go right down the list and you could see the differences. Now you have to try to do that on the internet, which you're going back and forth, so it really does take you a lot. That's one thing on the internet that takes more time.
sure, and logging into the sites and finding. I know working with you guys with the newspaper and the Post and
Oh, it's getting
for the
tough,
ads,
yeah.
trying to find information
yeah.
is actually more difficult than just looking it up in a book.
It is. Yeah, because we used to build our ads.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd give us an ad planner. We'd build the ad, you'd come in and pick up the ad, and we'd give
That
it to
was
you,
it.
and you'd run it like that.
And it seemed to work well.
Yeah.
It did. It really did.
And throughout your entire store, what's the very best seller?
Probably laundry, because
Well, everybody needs
everybody needs a
Yes.
washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the exception of one or two brands, they're not holding up the way they used to. They've got too many electronics in them.
They're not designed probably to last
No,
the same.
no, they're not. And that's why we're selling so much in the Speed Queen line right now, because it seems to be the only washer that any serviceman will recommend anybody to buy.
Really?
Oh, okay.
And only a small independent dealer can
sell those,
Can
or-
sell those.
Okay, and we talked about customer service earlier, and I can certainly attest that because I've been here many times in the store when a customer comes in, and what you really see is exactly what you just talked about. I've watched you actually walk a customer through 3 or 4 different models of washers and why this one might be $35 more, but here's why that $35 is probably worth $100 to you, and you should go with this one, not because of the how long it'll last, the ease of working on it, those type of things. So
Well, a good example, a washing machine in a Maytag currently today is about $100 less than they were in 1982.
wow.
Now, if you think that's the same machine, it's not. Now, Speed Queen's a lot more money than the Whirlpools and the Maytags, but they really are a machine that's built to last 20 plus years, and there's not much in our industry anymore that will hold up that long.
Wow, it's almost like a big disposable lighter.
It is.
It is.
And
Yeah,
the price of
true.
parts, the parts pricing is, I mean, they're getting so expensive by the time you buy the part and you have to have a serviceman repair it.
You're halfway to a
Unless
new.
it's a minor repair, it's getting to a point it doesn't even pay to repair.
Yeah, and they're so complicated. They're
they
difficult to
are.
repair yourself.
They are.
You have to have someone that's an expert.
You do. I mean, because I'm sure the repairman from 20 years ago would have never dreamt that there'd be this many electronics in it.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
Now, what about colors? What's big in colors right now?
That's funny that you mentioned that because we were down in Amish country a week ago, and we're having a new table built for ourselves. And it's oak, but it's got a pewter stain on it. It's like grays. Well, then we went to another furniture store, and the gentleman, a designer, was down there drawing up some stuff, and we got to talking. And he said, "So you have the day off today?" I said, "I take every Tuesday off." He wanted to know what I did. So when I sold appliances, I had a retail store in Wadsworth, and he says, "Perfect. I want to ask you a question. What is the most popular color of appliances currently?" And I said, "It's either smudge-proof stainless or what they call black stainless, which is a fingerprint-resistant type of finish." And he says, "That's very interesting. I want to show you something." So he walks over to the wall, had no idea there was a hidden room in there, puts a code in there, and the door's open. He takes us back in there. There's 6 design rooms back there. Every single room. He had bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms, all with new design furniture. The new neutral is the grays.
Yep.
Every single room was done in grays. And I told the gentleman, I said, that's exactly what the other guy at the furniture said. The store told us 15, 20 years ago, it was the tans, the neutrals.
Right.
Now the new neutral is gray.
It's gray.
And he says, we're getting such a demand for that type of furniture. He said, that's why you're going to see a lot of it throughout the store.
Wow.
So the trends are changing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love stainless steel.
And who knows, maybe 20 years from now, avocado green and harvest gold will come back.
I don't know. We can certainly hope not.
Yes, I delivered a lot of it in my day, I can tell you that.
So
Copper
I
tone.
know Janie's still looking for that perfect piece of kitchen equipment. She wants the one that has the option with a margarita maker built
That's
in.
right.
Yes.
And secondly, comes along with someone to actually use it and cook for her, right?
That's right.
We keep
That's
looking,
right.
and keep searching,
Yeah.
whether it's Speed Queen, Maytag, we're not
That would be a
particular.
very popular appliance if they come out with it, I think.
You know, we're getting ready to, not quite yet, to redo our house and our kitchen. And of course, we'll be here to buy our appliances. But I think it's always funny because my husband, when we talk about it, he'll say, we really don't have to replace the oven. It's like new.
Yeah. Just put a new face on it.
You know, we joke a lot of times, I mean, with all the restaurants in the area, that we're kind of, sometimes we wonder how we even sell a stove.
Yes, you're
I
right.
said,
Yep.
but you got to have something to fill that 30-inch gap in the kitchen to make it look
You
right.
do.
So-
And you're going to probably use it a couple times a year for Thanksgiving, Easter, and Christmas.
Yeah.
maybe.
And evidently that is a popular time of the year because between Thanksgiving and New Year's, we sell more bake elements for ranges than we do the entire season.
Oh, my
Makes
And
sense.
it's always from Thanksgiving through like New Year's.
Well, we're almost out of time, amazingly, but I've got one big question to
Okay.
ask you. For your stovetop, gas or electric, what do you prefer?
I grew up with gas. I
Okay.
like gas.
Okay,
I like electric.
okay.
I think they're easier to clean.
They are.
Okay.
Now, supposedly professional chefs prefer to cook on nothing but gas burners, but they will bake in nothing but an electric range.
Okay.
Because an electric range, you'll have anywhere from 3 to 5 degree temperature swing max. On a gas oven, it can be 30 to 40 degrees, and that's considered normal. Because when the gas burner goes out, the temperature has to drop so many degrees before it calls for the igniter to heat up, and then once the igniter gets so hot, it opens the coils to release the gas again. So if you're buying a gas oven, in that case, a convection oven to me is going to bake a lot better because you also have a electric heating element in front of the fan, which when the gas burner's off, it's still moving that hot air throughout the oven.
Okay.
So if people bake a lot and they're buying a gas range, I try to recommend a convection oven because it really does bake a lot better.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, we are completely out of time now. Drew's doing a dance behind the camera to say, stop.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Paul and Annie Bicksler, you truly have put Wadsworth on the map.
Well,
that
thank
people
you.
come
Thank
here
you.
specifically for Bicksler Electric.
Well,
And
we're proud to be part of the downtown, and
yeah,
we
thank
hope
you.
to see it thrive in the next
Yeah.
Yeah,
15 to
thanks for
20
being the great members of the community you are for such
Yep.
a not
You're
just
welcome.
your family, your grandparents and and father, but you guys, you're integral, like Janie said, and you always are. You're always willing, and frankly, thank you for just being a place I can stop in and get a hug and a smile,
Okay.
you know, and then go
Well,
down and get a hug and a smile from Janie. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
satisfy that every week. My quota of hugs and smiles through you too.
Very nice. And
Not
thank-
Paul yet, but
Handshake's good with him. Not a hug.
And thanks for bringing Drew.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
We love him. So
Thanks for having
have
us
a good
on
week,
today.
Wadsworth.
Have a great week, Wadsworth.
Okay.